Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. When it comes to interacting with and serving other people, one of the easiest mistakes to make is to get so hung up on the symptom that we're trying to change or the outcome that we want that we fail to pay attention to root causes and ask ourselves what the underlying need really is. For example, suppose you have horrible acid reflux. Practically every night your chest is on fire as stomach acid is splashing up into the esophagus. It's easy to look at that symptom and say, stomach acid is my problem, and then make the assumption that taking an acid-reducing medication will be the answer. But is it? I pointed out in another Caregiver Minute episode that the sphincter that has to close where the esophagus connects to the stomach is triggered to close by stomach acid. In other words, if you don't have sufficient stomach acid, that sphincter might not close and stomach acid could splash back up into the esophagus when you lie down. So the treatment might actually be more stomach acid, not less. But you only get there when you start focusing on root causes. You might also have to pay attention to the fact that every time you drink a beer before bed, you get horrible acid reflux. And maybe the thing that you need to do is to quit drinking that alcohol right before bed, or quit eating the spicy foods or other things that are triggering that acid reflux. When it comes to lots of other things in a person's behavior, it's easy to neglect the underlying need. Many years ago when I was working in a memory care community, we had a new resident move in named Catherine, and we quickly became concerned with some of her behavior. She was refusing to come to meals. She didn't want to interact with people. She was more withdrawn. She seemed to be going into a shell, and it was unlikely that she was going to come out of it. Now, the outward symptoms there were all the things that I just described. And so at first we were going in her room and just trying to coax her to come to meals and encouraging her by saying, well, you might feel better if you get some food in your tummy. And none of that was working. And as long as we stayed hung up on the outcome that we wanted, namely her coming out of the room, coming to meals, participating in activities, we came up empty. And finally, we started considering, what's really going on here? What's the unmet need? What's the underlying cause of all this? And one of the things that we had to consider was her life history and how she had lived all these years leading up to her move to memory care. Well, I had done the initial assessment in her home, and I started thinking about the fact that she lived in a home with a lot of animals, and she had moved to the community where there were no dogs or cats or birds or other animals that she had in her home. She was in a very different kind of environment, and I knew that those animals, at least for a lot of people, and very likely for Catherine, fill a crucial role. They're a person's connection to the world in so many ways. And so we talked about it as a team, and our maintenance director, Chandra, had a dog that was a pointer who was very willing to sit and just let people stroke it. And so we asked Chandra to bring in her dog, and she did. And that dog sat next to Catherine's rocking chair in her room for a few days. And Catherine just sat there stroking the dog. And after a day or so, Catherine came out to a meal. And then she came out to all 3 meals. And then she started going to the activities. And she started laughing again. And she started interacting more. We didn't need to focus so much on the symptom, all the times that she was refusing to do those things. What we really needed to do was to focus on the unmet need. Oftentimes when we dig into things from that perspective, we find the answers that we're looking for. So today I invite you to consider what needs might be unmet for the person or people that you're serving. Are there symptoms that you're too focused on that are causing you to neglect a further exploration of unmet needs and root causes? I think many of us have heard this, but common sense is not always common practice. And we missed Catherine's need for a long time until we finally just started backing things up and trying to look at what might really be at the root of her behavior. I hope that thought is helpful to you and the people you serve, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.